come from the book Anne of Green Gables by L.M. Montgomery. This excerpt comes, it's the story of Anne, a spirited orphan who is adopted by a pair of elderly siblings, Matthew and Marilla. In this scene, Anne is mortified after accidentally baking a cake for the new minister's wife using anodyne liniment, a medicinal cure-all, instead of vanilla extract. Anne permitted herself to be led down and comforted, reflecting that it was really providential that Mrs. Allen was a kindred spirit. Nothing more was said about the liniment cake, and when the guests went away, Anne found that she had enjoyed the evening more than she could have expected, considering that terrible incident. Nevertheless, she sighed deeply. Marilla, isn't it nice to think that tomorrow is a new day with no mistakes in it yet? I'll warrant you'll make plenty in it, said Marilla. I never saw your beat for making mistakes, Anne. Yes, and well I know it, admitted Anne mournfully. But have you ever noticed one encouraging thing about me, Marilla? I never make the same mistake twice. I don't know as that's much benefit when you're always making new ones. Oh, don't you see, Marilla? There must be a limit to the mistakes one person can make. And when I get to the end of them, then I'll be through with them. That's a very comforting thought. Well, you'd better go and give that cake to the pigs, said Marilla. It isn't fit for any human to eat, not even Jerry Bout.
As I have been looking ahead at this ever-approaching experience of becoming a parent for the second time around, I've noticed myself reflecting on my first go-around with an infant and thinking about so many things. Well, at least I'm not going to make that mistake again. There is this sense of getting a second chance, having the opportunity to try it all again. It's like a new day, as Anne Shirley says, with no mistakes in it yet. As Marilla reminds Anne in the passage we just heard, that doesn't mean there won't be any mistakes. I'm sure that I am going to figure out ways to screw up with this second kid just as much as with the first. But I do hope that I will at least be able to say, as Anne does, that I'm not going to make the same mistake twice. I don't know if I believe her that there's some end to the mistakes we make, but wouldn't that be comforting to know? Each time we enter something new, a new day, a new year, a new phase of life, a new place to live, we have the opportunity to begin again, to hit the reset button, so to speak. We have the opportunity to let go of what has come before, our old mistakes and patterns, our fears and insecurities, or maybe the things we didn't like so much about ourselves and wish that we could change. As a kid, I remember each school year feeling like an opportunity to remake myself. Every year I would set out to be different. This time around, I would say, I'm not going to be the shy, smart kid who says awkward things and doesn't have many friends. This time will be different. But the truth was that each time I was still me. I didn't know how to stop acing math tests or waiting too long to speak and missing my chance. Just as Anne says, just as Anne Shirley in Anne of Green Gables never stops losing her temper or letting her overactive imagination run wild. This is not to say that we can't change. We do change in big transformations and in small shifts. We are always changing and growing. But we do not actually ever get to begin again with a totally clean slate, no matter how much has changed in our lives or in the world around us. As we move through the cycles and seasons of life in that circle that we heard Steve sing about so beautifully. We carry on with our mistakes and our flaws, as well as with the wisdom that we have gained from those mistakes, from the experiences that have brought us to today. As much as we may be looking for a fresh start in any given moment, I don't think any of us would actually want to be able to erase everything from our past. Renewal is not necessarily about totally leaving behind what has come before, but instead about making enough space for something new to emerge. In her book, The Intuitive Body, Wendy Palmer compares the process of renewal to that of a compost pile. She says, our compost pile needs to be turned over. At the right time, this rich mix of broken dreams, pain and fear, and the fermented wisdom of our past seasons is spread upon the ground to enrich the soil and nourish our new crop of ideas, insights, and visions. Birth, growth, change, fruition, death, decay, and rebirth lead to more growth in a continuous, ongoing cycle. Our past mistakes and failures, our disappointments and sorrows do not simply disappear. Instead, they transform into the rich soil in which we can plant the seeds of renewal and growth. Now, this doesn't mean that we don't have to do any work or that renewal happens automatically. We don't get new beginnings for free. Like Palmer says, we need to turn over the compost pile to mix it up so that that rich soil is revealed. We may need to revisit some of the mistakes and sorrows before we can really let them go. This is the work that our Jewish siblings have been engaged in over this last week, the High Holy Days in the Jewish calendar. Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur mark the beginning of a new year in the Jewish calendar. It is a much more reflective and rigorous New Year's practice than our December 31st noisemakers and ball drops. Many Jewish people take this time to really take stock of their last year, to make amends for the ways they have wronged others or our world, to reflect on the goals they had set out for this year and the ways they have fallen short, to recall the hard moments and the sorrows. By taking stock of all of this, the idea is that they will be able to enter the new year as a fresh start, not carrying those mistakes and sorrows as burdens. It is a process both of letting go and learning from the past, acknowledging and releasing the things that might hold them back in the new year. In that spirit, I'd like to invite you all into some reflection and a ritual today of acknowledging and releasing the things that are holding you back from beginning again, from a sense of renewal this fall. Sadie included some dissolvable paper in the at-home kits for kids. So if you have some, you can take it out now. And don't worry, adults, Sadie has a whole stack of dissolvable paper with her to capture the things you'd like to let go of. In a moment, we'll hear an anthem. And during that anthem, I invite you to type into the chat box the things that you would like to release or let go of to make space for renewal in your life. Try to capture it in just 1 to 2 words so Sadie can write it down. And she's going to write those 1 to 2 words on dissolvable paper that we will dissolve together when the song is over. If you have some at home, you can write on your own paper and dissolve it at the same time. So as we listen to The Rose by Amanda McBroom, performed by Ann Smith, I invite you into this time of reflection and sharing. What do you need to let go of or release to make space for renewal in your life this fall? So I think Sadie has a whole pile now. Are you ready, Sadie?
I have many. We have so much that we are going to let go of. And as they are dissolved, the letters will all swirl together. So if you don't see yours written, the letters will rewrite themselves in the sacred bowl.
So we're going to spotlight our sacred bowl and take all those things that we need to acknowledge and release, to learn from and let go of, in order to make space for our hearts and our lives for renewal, for beginning again. I will read each word or phrase as Sadie holds it up. And as I do so, I invite you, even if it wasn't the one that you wrote down, I invite you to reflect on how it speaks to you and your life in this past year. Take a moment to hold on to whatever it is, listen to what it has to teach you, and then let it go as the words dissolve in the water. Let's take a breath together before we begin. Belief that I'm too small. Fear of trust. Isolation. Stress. Sibling rivalry. Identity as a professor. Perfection. My impatience. Stress and worry. Parenting mistakes. Expectations. Hatred. Shame and fear. Despondency. Regret. Tormenting ourselves about our past. Jumping to conclusions. Anger. Our son's epilepsy. Anxiety. Guilt. Fear. Sorrow. Pain. Control. Moving forward. beginning again. Let's take another breath together, releasing anything else that we need to let go of in this moment. Having released all of this into our bowl of water, into the universe, let us open our hearts now to whatever new beginning is before us. May we find spaciousness in our souls, turning over the compost of our year to discover the rich soil needed for the seeds of renewal to be sown. May it be so. I invite you to join in singing from home our closing hymn, Soon the Day Will Arrive. It's number 146 in our hymnal. As we go out into the world, we extinguish this flame of our chalice. But we carry with us the promise of renewal, the hope that we can begin again, we can learn and let go, acknowledge and release. May we carry this with us into whatever renewal this season has for us in our lives. May it be so.